right before we jump into this Nikon D810 preview video, if you haven't signed up for the FroKnowsPhoto email list, you could click on the screen right now. Just look for that orange box over on the website, put your name, email address in it, hit send it, and I will send you a free guide to capturing motion in low-light situations. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and this is a preview of the Nikon D810, which is replacing the D800 and the D800E, and I want to go over the specifications right now. We've got a 36.3 megapixel CMOS sensor, this time with no OLPF. As you may recall, the Nikon D800 had the OLPF, and the D800E did not have the OLPF. And the OLPF stands for Low Pass Optical Filter, and what it does is stuff, which you can go read all about it if you want, but basically it's going to mean sharper images because there's not another filter that's cutting down on extra sharpness, things like that. But if you want to get all technical, go read about it, that's up to you. So this means there's only going to be one D810. There won't be an E version at all. We now have an Speed 4 processor, which is processing stuff at 30% faster rates, 5 frames a second opposed to 4 frames a second with the D800E, or the D800 with an E, and I guess that means that the faster processor is helping out with that. And if you go into DX mode, you're going to do 7 frames a second, but there's kind of no reason to go into DX mode. Personally, in my opinion, I don't think I would do that. The ISO range is much better. The D800's ISO range was, I think it was 100 to 6400. I don't even have it on the notes. I don't know why I'm looking at the notes because I didn't write that down, but it was 100 to 6400. Now they have a low of 64 and the high is 12,800. So they've expanded it one stop on each side. They also have a low option of 32, and that's a low one, and an H2 of 51,200. Now I asked, why are those considered low and not the main settings? And they said, well, optimum range that their engineers say is 64 to 12,800. That's where they recommend you're going to get the best images in terms of quality when you go ahead and do that. They added the group area AF, which is something that they added in the D4S, which is going to help with focusing and focus tracking, because I know some people had issues with the D800 with focus when they were shooting. They added RAW S, and the S stands for small. RAW small. It's half the size of the regular RAW. So anybody out there that bitches that RAW files are way too big, well, now it's half the size that it used to be. It's kind of like half the man that it used to be because it went on a diet, but it's still RAW and you can still work with it. It now has a highlight weight metering. That's a new metering option that basically for spotlights, if you're going to shoot concerts not in manual, which I highly recommend, well, this is going to be an option that's going to take the reading for just what's inside that spotlight. I don't know how much different it is from just using spot metering. We're going to have to try it out to see what it does. They have a flat picture control, which really means something more for video than it does for stills. And they added a new screen. It's now 1.229 million pixels, and it's not just RGB. No, just wait. Guess what else it is? It adds a W. It's an RGB W, and W stands for white. They added white pixels. They say it does something for contrast. All right. So then you can also do the LCD color balance. That means you can balance the back of the screen. So anybody out there who bitches that the screen is has a green color cast, who gives a stuff about it, because you can change that, and if you're shooting RAW, it doesn't matter anyway. So yes, it's cool that you can calibrate it. When the day comes that we can calibrate our computer monitor to the back of the camera, that will be a win. But until that time, this isn't that much of a big deal. The price, before we get into the video, the price, $3299.99, which is $300 more than what the D800 was, but the same price as the D800E. So they're squeezing a little bit more money out of it at that point, but there is no OLPF, and I think this is a much better step over everything else. They have an SRP, which is a suggested retail price of the battery grip, of $616, which is just absurd, but they sell it for $349. You can find it at all of your local retailers, but that is still absurd. $349 for a grip. That's why a lot of people look for the third-party stuff, and I'm not sure I'm a fan of those, but whatever. $349. If I had this camera, I would be buying the vertical grip. It takes SD cards, it takes compact flash cards, SD card and compact flash card, because it only takes one of each. So I still fully don't understand that, but SD cards have gotten tremendously faster and more reliable over the years, so not a bad option as a professional to get a ton of those to use that for photos and for video. Speaking of video, the major video option here is 1080p at 1080 at 60 frames a second. It now does that, which is going to allow you to do slow-mo or slow things down and still get good quality after you go ahead and process it. ISO Auto, it added that, which is a great option that I love in the D4S just for video. It just changes the ISO as you walk around. It means you can set your camera to the 1/50th of a second if you're shooting at 24 frames a second, and you can set your aperture, say, at f5.6, and I'm spitting all over the place like that Daffy Duck guy, but you can then walk into a situation that's dark and then move into a situation that's light, and it's going to gradually change your ISO to keep everything balanced. It's not going to be herky-jerky, and herky-jerky isn't good when it comes to video. Flat picture control, that's good for video for anybody that likes to do the color grading and the tweaking after the fact in the computer. That's a good option. That's one step closer to getting the RAW, but without getting the RAW. They added zebra stripes for those video people out there. Still do clean HDMI out to an Atomos, which is what we do with the D610s here when we do Raw Talk. That's a great option. Full manual control. It's like they take and give you the full options available in this expensive camera, but as you step into the lower end cameras, they start taking out those options. So if you want to be able to have full manual control while shooting video, this is going to do it. And I wrote solid, 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 solid for video. This is a very, very capable camera all the way around. Yes, if you have a D800 or a D800E, is it worth the upgrade? If you are a working professional, absolutely, positively, yes. If you don't feel that it's for you and you don't need it, of course, don't upgrade. You don't have to dump it right away. But if you dump it now, you're going to get the most value out of your D800 or D800E to then turn around and reinvest into this camera 2 years later. And if you lose $750 to $1,000, well, you basically rented that camera for $1,000, and if you're making money, then that's all that matters. You may want to have that gear, that D800. I would want this one for the ISO. If I needed a backup or used a backup, this one is now falling more into a range of a backup that I would want to use because of the ISO doing 12,800. That's a better type of range. So this seems to be a very good little evolutionary upgrade from the D800 to now the D810. The key features, no OLPF and all those other things that I mentioned, that's a cool thing. Will you be buying this? Won't you be buying this? Will you not be upgrading? Will you be upgrading? That's up to you guys to let me know. But I think it's definitely a buy now. Buy now, or check it out if you can afford it and you're a professional photographer. Solid all the way around, photos, videos. That's all I've got right now. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya. Are you subscribed to the YouTube channel? I hope so. Are you? Maybe. Not? If you're not, go ahead, click that subscribe button somewhere on the screen here, and that's going to allow you to go ahead and quickly subscribe to the channel so you can get all of the updated videos as they come out, so you can stay up to date with the latest and greatest information coming from FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.